Lag Baomer, the 33rd day of the Omer, will always fall on the 18th of Iyar, Chai Iyar, is a day that is associated with two main figures in Judaism. The first person is Rabbi Akiva, and the second figure is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We usually call him with his acronym Rashbi. Rashbi will be the acronym of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And what is the association with these two figures? The first with Rabbi Akiva is because Rabbi Akiva, says the Talmud, that he had 24,000 students. He was one of the greatest masters of Jewish people at the time. We are talking of the 2nd century, end of 1st century, beginning of 2nd century. And at his time, he was the most dominant figure in the Jewish tradition, as a master of Jewish tradition. He had 24,000 students. Says the Gemara, all of the students of Rabbi Akiva perished in one time between Pesach and Shavuot. The oral tradition tells us that it was between Pesach and Shavuot, but it stopped on the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer, which ends up on Lag BaOmer. Now, why did they perish, and how did they perish? So we know why, but we don't know how. Why did they perish? Says the Gemara, because they were not respecting one another. So we know that a lack of mutual respect were at the cause of their falling and their death. And there are two paths to that interpretation of events. One opinion, and they are not exclusive, by the way, they could be both complementary. One opinion says those 24 students were high-level, top-level Talmidei Chachamim scholars, holy people devoted to the studies of the holy text. And if you are the level of being a student of Rabbi Akiva, you must have been the top class. If they were so top of their class, and if we know that one of the primary fundamental teachings of Rabbi Akiva was Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ze klal gadol b'Torah. There's a verse in the Pasuk, in the Torah, that we read last week, that says you will love your fellow like yourself. It's one verse among so many other verses. Rabbi Akiva said that verse is a fundamental principle of Torah. So Rabbi Akiva placed in his teaching early on the idea that the love of one another is a fundamental pillar in our Judaism. Now, that would mean that all these 24,000 students did not get the memo. I mean, they failed exactly where he put the strength. That doesn't make sense. We could expect a lack of mutual respect, but not among the students of Rabbi Akiva. He's the preacher of love. And so an explanation to that is that it was actually because they were the student of Rabbi Akiva that they failed. Because you see, the Gemara doesn't say they lacked love, mutual love for one another. The Gemara says they lacked mutual respect. And this is a fundamental difference that people forget often to do. They loved one another. They loved one another so much that they couldn't bear the idea that the other one would get it wrong. So they will try to really bombard the other one. You need to understand the right way. Let me explain you again. And if the other one would say, just let go, I have a different opinion than yours. If it would be a friend, you could accept it. But if someone that is so close to you that you love as someone that you live together, so I can't allow you to be in error. I really want to convince you. So he's not going to let go on the expense of the respect. the respect of the diversity of the other one's opinion. Now, extrapolate on that, not only one person does it to the other, but 12,000 doing it to 12,000 reciprocally. You end up with a group of people of passionate love on the expense of the respect, mutual respect. They did not fail in love. They did not fail in love. They failed in respect because of the love. And that's a very strong lesson of Lag Baomer. Love is paramount, but it can never be on the expense of respect. And in relationship, it is so important to place that again in the center. We tend to speak a lot in modern relationship theories about how to love one another and how to keep the chemistry alive, especially in long-term relationships, etc. And sometimes we invest so much thought in the love that we overlook the respect. Love cannot grow when there is no respect. And when there is respect, love can naturally grow. For sure is, do not confuse the two and make sure your love is always respectful. And so, in the world we are living with turning physical appearances as objects of interest and so on, love, attraction, chemistry, balanced with a proper respect becomes so important. This is the first part. But there is another opinion about who were these students. These students, according to some opinions, were soldiers in the army of Bar Kokhba. Bar Kokhba was the last Jew who were able to resist the Roman invasion of Israel. And even after the Roman destroyed the Jewish temple, Bar Kokhba was still able to create a certain autonomy in the south of Israel. He was a king with money stamped on his name with the seals. There was an internal finance system. It was very, very well organized, and that kingdom lasted for a couple of years. But it was short-lived. The Roman machine was irresistible. It just crushed everything on its way. It was just a matter of time. Nobody were able to resist the mighty Rome on a long-term period. After a couple of years, they collapsed. Rabbi Akiva was a strong supporter of Bar Kokhba and that revolt. And the 24,000 students perished in battle. That's another theory. It's not proven. That theory is not proven. But there are substantial evidence indicating to that point, that direction. What it is interesting is that it's not exclusive of the first traditional understanding that these students were scholars and saints. They could have been both. They were highly devoted to the Torah, highly devoted to Judaism, to holiness in general, but came a moment where they had to defend their land. They took the weapons and arms and they went and joined the army and they fought for allowing a Jewish life in Israel, the continuity of the Jewish life in Israel. But they all perished. And they perished why? For the same reason. Lack of respect. And that will give a different twist to it. Lack of respect in context to battle obviously will jeopardize cooperation, teamwork, alignment versus an enemy. When you have a non-aligned enemy, it's so much easier to defeat it. In both ways, it will have strong implication to us in modern age, in modern Israel. We are in Lag Baomer, we are invited to revisit our judgment of a different opinion. And more important than our judgment of the different opinion, but to revisit our judgment of the person who has a different opinion. And being able to make a clear distinction between not agreeing with an opinion does not mean not agreeing with the person who has an opinion. We could disagree on something. I don't disagree with you. I'm disagreeing with the idea you mentioned. Me with you, we are completely aligned in heart and in mind in relations to our relationship. We are mutually clear that our relationship is unbreakable, is a family relationship, is an intimate relationship, is a relationship of faith. Not only a relationship of faith, but a relationship of faith. Jews among one another don't only have a relationship of faith, they primarily have a relationship of faith. And because of that, making that distinction between being in disagreement with what you say and being in disagreement with you is important. I am never your opponent. I disagree with what you said. Reaffirming that despite my disagreement with what you said, I am totally aligned with you in our relationship. Not less committed, not less engaged, not less unified. Lag Baomer is an invitation to that thought. And that thought, it's so ironic that as soon as we got back to live together in Israel, we come back with the same problem we struggled with 2,000 years ago. And we are reinvited to remember, this is what we did, this is where we failed. Let's remember where we failed and strengthen our weaknesses. This is a point we need to strengthen. In today's modern Israel, and the public debate and conversation that happens over there, it is a fundamental message to bring back to society. Precisely the teaching of Rabbi Akiva and the experience and the failure of his students. So often we would say, no, Israelis are just very passionate people. And you can see it in times of need. They are so much one, helping one another, and always there for you, and the neighborhood becomes a family. It's a thing to watch. It's an incredible, unique phenomenon that doesn't exist anywhere in the world. Yeah, that's true. But it was also true in the time of Rabbi Akiva. The love they had was already there. And that did not prevent them to fail in their mutual respect. And therefore, I would say the Israeli passion and love for one another is to praise, but cannot serve as an excuse for the lack of mutual respect. Because we've been there, and that led to an unequivocal consequence. They all died in one time. Quick, short-lived. That is the first figure associated with Lag Baomer. The second figure associated with Lag Baomer is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We'll try to make it... The second figure associated with Lag Baomer is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, called Rashbi. Who was Rashbi? Rashbi was a student of Rabbi Akiva. One of the only 5 students who survived that episode where they were all decimated. And he became in turn one of the top leaders of the Jewish people. Now, obviously his life work is enormous, gigantic, but that's not what we are celebrating. We are celebrating the day of his passing. And in the day of his passing, that is in Lag Baomer, we are celebrating the most important achievement of his life, which is the teaching of a completely new dimension of the Torah. And that was the revelation of the book of the Zohar. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is traditionally the author of that book. And that book is the cornerstone of the teaching of the Kabbalah and the secrets of the Torah. Now, why is that so important and to be celebrated? Well, first, because it was a completely new dimension of Judaism. But second of all, because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai predicted in his time, 2000 is exactly actually 1,800 years ago, the time of Rashbi, that said, at the end of the Galut, Jews will need this book to go out of exile and come back to their land. What is the core idea of that book? It's a very cryptic, Kabbalistic book, non-accessible to the common. Only expert people can have an eye in it and understand it. For hundreds of years, there was a prohibition to the commoner to explore these books. They were too complex, people can err and get completely wrong message. So it was for the top level rabbis. It was a guarded secret. Says Rav Kook, what is that prediction, that prophecy of Rashbi, that this book will be needed for the Jews to go out of exile? Is that in the end of times, there will be an awakening of the Jewish people to search for the deeper meaning of the Torah. For centuries, Jews have kept the Torah and its commandments as a religious act, as a cultural act, without asking too many questions. We are Jews, that's what we do. And that's fine. But comes a time when there is a spiritual awakening from the Jewish mass, not from a specific isolated group of Kabbalists who hide in a cave in Sfat, no. We are talking a mass movement, a mass phenomenon of an interest to the secret of the Torah. What it means, the secret? Its meaning, its purpose. Not what are we to do, but why are we doing what we're doing? Not what is at task, but who we are. Like the Zohar himself actually says very clearly, the stories of the Bible, the story of the Torah are the clothings of the Torah. The mitzvot and commandments of the Torah are the body of the Torah. And the Zohar, the Kabbalah, the Chassidut, the secrets of the Torah reveal the science of God that there is in the Torah. This is the soul of the Torah. What is the soul? The soul is something you don't see, but animates everything you see. You never see the soul, you only see its effect. You see the body, you see the clothings, you don't see the soul, but you see what animates the body and what it does. That was enough for society, that was enough for the Jewish people for a long time. But comes a time where the Jew says, I see the Torah, I see the clothings and the body, I see the stories, I analyze them, I understand somehow what I could understand, I understand the commandments, I do them, I got that part. I need to understand the soul. And that is an expression of an awakening of the soul of the Jewish people. When the soul is awakened, it needs to feel you. It's like in a relationship. If my relationship comes from my soul, it will search to connect with your soul. The most important, perhaps, message of Rabbi Shimon is that entire Judaism that we know, there is something beneath it, beneath the surface, which is primarily a relationship between God and the Jews. Now, what is that relationship between God and the Jews? It is something that is facilitated, made by, nurtured through the Torah and the mitzvot. But deeper than all of that is a place where Jews, the soul of the Torah and the soul of the Jewish people are one. There's nothing that can separate us. No mitzvah, no avera, nothing can separate us. And so you see, the idea of Kabbalah leaves now the closet of mystery, of complication, intricate combination of letters and numbers and all these sephirot and all these things. And he comes to a much more understandable concept. The concept that is able to see through what the physical eye can't see. Kabbalah is primarily the development of the third eye, developing that sensitivity to see and perceive what the physical eye cannot see. And that is the relationship. So Rabbi Shimon basically says an idea that is, I would probably say, simply put, transliterated. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai say, what it means to look in the secret of the Torah is to look at the soul of the Torah. What it means to look at the secret of the world is to look at the soul of the world. Who is in the soul of the world? God. But you can't see him. Let's train our mind and our hearts and our soul to perceive him, to perceive God where he is hiding. This is the most important secret. God plays hide and seek with us. His job is to hide. Our job is to search for him. On proper time, when there is health, prosperity, proper physical condition, Jews are searching for God in creation. Humanity is searching for God in creation. They are searching for the purpose in the very fact that they are alive. But when there are distress, persecution, expulsion, exile, a person goes back to the pyramid, Maslow pyramid, fundamental basics, needs, shelter, food, need to survive. And so what happens in this time? Men forget to search for God. And that's like a child who is hiding and nobody search for him. Who is in exile? Who is more in exile? The child who stopped searching for the boy who hide, or the child who hide and nobody search for him? The one that is more exiled is God, that is hiding and nobody searches for him. What is God's prayer, if we can say something like that? God's only prayer is, I'm hiding for so long. Please come search for me. I want to feel that you are searching for me. When humans will search God, when the child search for the other one who hides, they don't see one another. He's still searching and he's still hiding. But when the boy that is hiding knows and hears around the boys and girls searching for him, he's filled with joy. And he relates with them. He's not hiding alone, he's hiding with them. And when they are searching for him, they are not living alone. They are living with the hidden boy, the hidden girl. They are searching for him. They are part of his life, of their life. This makes the Jew and God living together in that hide and seek game. Humanity and divinity living in intimacy, even if they cannot see one another. They perceive, they communicate. It's an infused life of one another. This is the point of Rashbi. Rashbi says, Lag Baomer is a time to remember one thing. God is hiding in creation. God is the soul of the world. God is the soul of Torah. We have a soul that only yearns for one thing, to connect again with that soul. Let's not forget to pierce through the veil and seek to see what is invisible but very much present. That is the main message of Lag BaOmer. And perhaps because of that, Lag BaOmer is one of the anomalies in the Jewish holidays, because if you look in Israel, it's not a religious holiday that is written in the Bible or in the Code of Law, Shulchan Aruch, or anything. But everyone celebrates it. The most fervent Hasidim will go and pray to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's grave, and the most secular Jews will light up the bonfire and have a party. Why everyone relates with something that is so advanced, such as the revelation of the secrets of the Torah and the Kabbalah? If people are not even observant or don't necessarily feel the presence of Judaism in their life, what is the relationship with Baomer? Well, precisely that. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's ability to see through the veil of outer shell can relate with every Jew in any way, in any form, from the most observant to the least observant, from the most believer to the non-believers. There is a certain level where we are all the same. We share one soul, one Father, one God, and one fate. Probably coming back to our original point, we are not brothers, we are not only brothers in faith, we are much more brothers in fate. And this is what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai sees in Baomer, and this is what the Jewish people is celebrating tonight. Without a paper.
Got on your mind.
Yeah. I skipped obviously a couple of things because we had a long conversation before that, but that's plenty enough.
Good.
That's plenty enough.
I might light a bonfire in my house for the kids.
That will be lovely.
I need to look for a place where I can do it.
You know what I'm going to do? Because I'm going to do on the penthouse terrace, and the way I'm going to do it is that I'm going to take a barbecue pit, like you call this pit barbecue, whatever?
Barbecue.
Yeah. And in the barbecue, I will make a bonfire. I don't want to put it on the floor. I don't want to stain or make whatever.
You know my barbecue.
On the barbecue, put a bonfire. Like how you do it? Well, you remove the things, you put wood, and you have a bonfire. That's it. Basics. If the barbecue cannot handle the heat of the fire, you may change your barbecue anyway. So
It's the only one that can handle it. All right.
that's the way I'm going to do it. That's the way I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Sharing some knowledge. We'll see you next week.
Bezrat Hashem. How's it going? How's the fam?
Family.